It was Normandy, June 1944. Rain turned the soil to mud, and the air smelled of smoke, blood, and engine oil. In a makeshift field hospital hidden behind hedgerows, the wounded kept coming. Soldiers missing limbs, faces covered in grime and shock, medics shouting for morphine that never came. Among them worked Sergeant Daniel Reese, a combat medic from Ohio. He had seen too much, men torn apart by artillery, others dying from infection before the surgeons could even reach them. But it wasn't the explosions that terrified him. It was the silence that followed, the stillness when a soldier stopped screaming. And in that silence, Reese found something extraordinary. A cure that came from sweetness. Supplies were running out fast. The field hospital near Carentan was cut off from major routes. German counterattacks had shattered the supply convoys, and every bottle of antiseptic was already gone. Reese scavenged through crates looking for anything useful, iodine, alcohol, sulfa powder, but found only a few dented tins labeled U.S. Army rations, honey compound. He stared at them for a long moment. Honey, food, sugar, not medicine, or so he thought. But then he remembered something his grandmother used to do on the family farm, pressing honey onto small burns and cuts, wrapping them with cloth. "Keeps the bad stuff out," she used to say. "Desperation leaves no room for doubt." Reese opened a tin, scooped a spoonful of the thick amber syrup, and spread it across a soldier's infected wound. It was all he could do. Hours later, the bleeding slowed. By morning, the wound looked cleaner. The stench of rot had faded, and Reese realized honey wasn't just food, it was chemistry, and chemistry could save lives. As the days dragged on, more soldiers arrived, burns from fuel explosions, bullet holes turned black from infection. Reese began treating them all with what little he had. No alcohol, no sulfa, just honey, gauze, and faith. At first, the other medics laughed. "You trying to make toast out of them, Dan?" one joked. But then they saw the results. The wounds stayed clean. Inflammation dropped. Patients who should have been dying started sitting up and eating again. The rumor spread through the unit. The honey compound works. By mid-July, other medics were using it too. Some even requested rations containing it from nearby depots. When official supply officers asked why they were ordering dessert rations by the crate, Reese simply wrote, "Medical use, urgent." Decades later, scientists would prove what Reese already knew by instinct. Honey is naturally antibacterial and hygroscopic. It draws moisture out of wounds, killing bacteria by dehydration. It also contains hydrogen peroxide produced by an enzyme called glucose oxidase, making it a natural disinfectant. In the chaos of 1944, that chemical reaction became the difference between amputation and survival. What Reese discovered wasn't new. Ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans had used honey on battle wounds thousands of years earlier. But in the modern, industrialized war of the 20th century, it had been forgotten until a single American medic brought it back. When word of Reese's sweet medicine reached headquarters, officers were skeptical. "Medicinal honey? You can't be serious, Sergeant," one lieutenant scoffed. "I'm dead serious, sir," Reese replied, "and they're not dying anymore." An inspection team was sent to verify the reports. What they found shocked them. Rows of wounded men recovering faster than any recorded cases from nearby hospitals. The Army's medical board quietly noted it down as an anecdotal success, but never officially sanctioned it. There were regulations, procedures, and pharmaceutical suppliers to protect. So Reese kept working quietly. No recognition, no promotion, just the smell of blood and honey filling that tent every day. As supplies improved after the breakout from Normandy, Reese began mixing honey with small amounts of sulfa powder. The results were even better. The soldiers called it Reese's Mix. He taught the recipe to others. 3 parts honey, 1 part sulfa powder, stirred until thick, then spread on clean gauze. By the time they reached the Siegfried Line, dozens of medics across different divisions were using it. Some used it on burns from flamethrowers, others on shrapnel wounds. One tank crewman even used it on a frostbite case in the Ardennes. In a war defined by destruction, Reese's discovery was pure creation, a small act of healing in the middle of madness. When the war ended, Reese went home to Ohio. He opened a small pharmacy and called it Honey Health Remedies. He never patented his mix, never sought fame. In 1958, he wrote a letter to the U.S. Army Medical Research Board describing his wartime findings. He attached photographs, recovery charts, and handwritten notes. The letter was archived, marked Unverified Civilian Correspondence. Decades later, the World Health Organization would confirm honey's antibacterial and wound-healing properties, recommending its use in burn care and post-surgical infections. Sergeant Reese never lived to see that recognition, but his patients did. And long after the war, in the homes of the men he saved, the smell of honey would always mean hope. Today, modern medics use sterile honey dressings for burns and wounds in hospitals across the world. The same principle Reese rediscovered under the shell fire of Normandy still saves lives. It's easy to think of war as destruction, but sometimes hidden in the ruins. There are small acts of creation. A man with a spoon of honey and the courage to trust what others had forgotten. He didn't carry a weapon. He carried a tin of sweetness and the will to heal. That was his war. And that was his victory.